Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Jane on the podcast here. The last name, it would have tripped me up too much. I don't know. So I just decided, hey, we're just going to bail. You're just going to be Jane from now. It's Fleischman, everyone. So, I got it. But yeah, she's on here from Georgia, on here to share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. She's a WNBF figure and bikini pro as well as an engineer. So what? I have a friend that's an engineer. Good God. He's the most antisocial person ever. But I wanted to be an engineer myself, but I just was not given the God-given brain power necessary for it. But yeah, she's on here to share her health and fitness journey and discuss all things health and fitness. But most importantly, she's our current guest. Jane, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited.
Why don't you first off give us your backstory and what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're at right now in bodybuilding?
I've always been an athlete. I pretty much have been doing I did long distances since I was like 12 years old. So I was a runner for 22 years, something like that. Long distance runner. I've done ultra distances. And I really didn't start bodybuilding until 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And that was after I'd been introduced to CrossFit. So I got into CrossFit and I was like, oh, okay. And I got introduced to Olympic weightlifting. And I really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed the physique that CrossFit gave me. With that being said, is that I'm a very competitive person. So if I'm going to do something athletic, I want to be competitive. And just the way that my age, and it's not just my age, because I'm not I've done some amazing things. I continue to do some amazing things for somebody my age. But reality, my age and my physique did not make me a competitive CrossFit athlete. Just not. Can never be a Tia Toomey, okay? So I was like, I really want to continue to build my muscle and also work for an aesthetic. And so that's how I got into bodybuilding. Actually, a friend, while I was doing CrossFit, they were like, hey, they had done a bodybuilding show in the past, and they were like, why don't you try this? And I was like, okay, I'm down. And so I started looking into it a lot more, and I was like, you know what? I think this is more my speed. I enjoy CrossFit movements. I still enjoy Olympic weightlifting, but some of the stuff is just it's too much for me. It's not going to be real conducive to my joints and my long term health, I think. So that's how I got into bodybuilding. But I started bodybuilding. I'll just fast forward to bodybuilding. I started bodybuilding in 2018, or yes, bodybuilding in 2018. I didn't compete until 2022. And a lot of folks don't know that. So I've really only been competing for a year and 4 months. And in that year and 4 months, I have done 12 shows. Wild. I know. I have, I kind of did all the numbers. I'm going to post about this because a lot of people are really surprised why I'm pumping the brakes all of a sudden. I'm taking a year off. And that just comes, I think it's just a little bit of wisdom that I've gotten from other competitors who've been doing this for 30 years, and also just kind of seeing the cards at play. But I've had 13 first place finishes, 11 second place finishes, 3 third place finishes, and then I did worlds for WNBF. Got my butt handed to me pretty bad. I got 12th place, and I also did open bikini and I got 9th. And then I did an NPC show, so an untested show this year, and I got 5th in 3 of the categories that I did, which is not bad, especially considering what I was up against. So right now, I decided to take a year off because I just want to come back super, super dominant. People are like, you've been winning all these shows. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not winning all the ones that I want to win, and I'm not getting all the placements that I want to get. I'm like at 40%. 40% of the time I'm winning, but I want that to be like 60, 70. I want it to be a lot more dominant. And the major feedback that I've gotten throughout all these shows is that people say they want me to be a little bit more fuller. So that's what I'm doing. I'm eating all the calories and doing all the lifting right now.
Well, before we get into bodybuilding, I just got to ask, because as someone that hates cardio more than life itself, being that you were a long distance runner, how do you keep yourself entertained when you would be going on those ultra long runs? Because I would just lose interest.
I think it's so also by nature, I am surprisingly enough a major introvert socially. So shows, going out, being around a lot of people, it takes a lot out of me. I can do it. I know how to do it. I know how to be social, but it really drains me, to be honest. Um, and so I always find when I was on a run, like I could listen to music for a little bit, let's say the first few miles, and I could maybe listen to a podcast, but it actually got to the point where I didn't want anything in my ears. So really the entertainment or what kept me going, especially trail running was easier because you have to be aware and cognizant of where you're putting your feet and your body. So it was a lot easier to be entertained, I guess, in trail running. But yeah, on the highway, I mean, it just literally living in the moment and every second and minute and, listening to my heartbeat and listening to the steps and just kind of zoning out. Like there were times I probably didn't think about too much, didn't think about anything. I was just trying to survive, just trying to survive the distance. It was just, it gets to a point where it's painful. And so all you can think about is sometimes how much it hurts. So I wasn't real good at entertaining myself. I know some people can listen to music the entire time. They can listen, oh, I'm going to listen to a 4-hour podcast. I'm like, I can't do that. I can't have that noise in my ear. Like, I like silence. So, and I guess it was easy for me.
Did the running teach you a lot about endurance that really helps out in your bodybuilding workouts and lifestyle?
I have an engine. So where probably most people would quit, I don't quit in terms of a workout like with high reps and all that. So yeah, I'll continue. I think that it did the only translation is just, having no quit. Like just continuing to push through and push through and push through and push through to failure. So I think there's a mental endurance. It's not really the physical endurance; it's really the mental endurance because my workouts look a lot different, obviously, from running. But yeah, I think so. I believe so.
And when you were getting started, everyone always has that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much. And then they have that one body part that just drags behind it. They have to train to oblivion. What was one body part that really took off for you? And what was one body part that you just had to drag behind?
I mean, I didn't have anything to work with, so it was it was all of them. Like I was a stick figure. I had no hardly any muscle on my body. There was nothing that I could say that I could tell you was like, oh, this one was easy for me. It was all hard, and I mean, it was all hard. The one that what lags behind, and it's just normal, and it's like 99.9% of competitors get this feedback is, you got to bring up the glutes, bring up your hamstrings, because that's very, that's not, you use your quads a lot, right? During the day walking, they're kind of naturally strong. But, really getting a good tie in and getting, mass in your glutes. That's what I'm working on, and I get feedback. They're like, oh, we'd like to see a little bit more shoulder. And I'm like, well, that's easy. I can do that. I mean, they used to do figure, and I'm like, I know I lost a little bit of that roundness when I did all these shows, and I just kept cutting into my physique multiple times over and over again. So that's not going to be a problem. I mean, really, my focus right now is building volume and aggressively building volume in my legs, my quads, my hamstrings, my quad sweep, which is hard for a tall, thin framed woman, but it can be done. It's just going to be a lot of work.
6'3" here. That's the main reason I never even tried CrossFit myself, because good God, that's not even going to happen. But you did just do 12 shows in a period of, like what you said, a year and 4 months.
Yeah.
How did you deal with the mental side of being on basically a prep for that long?
I don't know. That's a great question. I think that I was really on a path, and people ask, why did you do that? Like, why what's the point? Why?
I'm not gonna lie. Even I was thinking when she said that, I was like, "What? 12
I,
shows?"
a mental problem? Like, do you feel like if you're not competing, then you're not, moving forward? Like, it's none of that. It was really a path of discovery because you hear a lot of people say a lot of stuff in bodybuilding about bodybuilding in general, but the different federations. But they have no actual experience in those federations, like first person experience. And that's what I wanted. They're like, why are you doing all these damn federations? It's hard to cross over. I'm like, I know it is. I was like, but I am not comfortable listening to somebody's opinion about, it's their experience. Everybody's experience when you do a show or do anything is very different, their perception of things. So I'm like, I just want to find out what all these are all about. I want to find out where I stack up. I'm not afraid of knowing if I'm competitive or not, and I think that's, some of it people fear about being judged and finding out, oh, maybe I have a lot more work to do. I'm like, no, I want all the feedback. I want all the criticism you can give me because it's going to make me better. But it was just, I wanted to know all the differences between the federations. I wanted to know where I'd be most competitive. And I wanted it to get what I got, which was an overall feedback of just being fuller. And so when I got that package and understood where I was at, I was like, you know what? Cool. Like, I'm doing really well, but right now, I'm going to pump the brakes. I'm going to stop where I'm at, give myself a mental break, a physical break, and a mental break. And, also, uh, these things affect your relationship or can affect your relationships. So also focus on my family and have more of a plan about what I want to do in the future in terms of bodybuilding. But basically, this was just a putting my toe in the water, I guess, in the bodybuilding world as pretty much a new face. Despite having some really good success, I think this is the wisest move for me.
Oh, absolutely. And what were some of the biggest differences that you did see between the federations as you were jumping between federations?
So the biggest thing is I see, and everybody sees, a lot of times when you're talking about NPC or IFBB, and you talk about natural federations, there's a big difference in athletes, right? There's a big difference between the way they look. And that could be for one reason or another. It's not always because people are on peds or some kind of gear. I mean, like the NPC show that I did, Sid Gillian, she's a lifetime natural, 6-time figure Olympian winner. So, if you have good genetics, you have great genetics, and you work hard, it's possible. It's just honestly, like, I wouldn't even say that I have great genetics for bodybuilding, but I just work really hard, like really hard, and I think that natural and Monday, you just come in with leaner, harder physiques in NPC and IFBB that typically than you are in natural physiques. I feel like natural physiques, I've gotten half the time I've gotten feedback that they felt like I was a little bit too conditioned. Even if I won a class, they'd be like, basically you won because this other person was under conditioned. But had I been against somebody who was more the ideal, I would have lost because they were like, hey, you're a little bit too lean. Whereas NPC, IFBB, they tend to reward that. But even then, they don't like some stuff. Like, I'm super developed in the abs, and next year, they may not like that, but I'm going to try it out again. I'm going to rock. Because that's the thing that kills me, I think. It's the first thing that people see. They're like, your core is ridiculous. And I'm like, yeah, but that's just, so that is my natural genetics coming in. I work on them, but it also, once I leaned out and got muscle and do all this lifting, that's where they are. I mean, I can't really do anything about it. Like, well, can you feel out? Can you add water? I'm like, yeah, well, if I like hold water, then they look huge. They look like CrossFit abs. They just come out. So
Honestly, I was shocked when I asked what body part took off that you didn't say abs because I was like, okay, good God, that's ridiculous. But hey, And it is fascinating just how different the criteria changes year by year and how it's just,
Yeah.
constantly evolving. But you talked a little bit about it, but what has this journey been like for you mentally? Because even just going through all those shows, without even that, this is just so much more of a mental sport than it is a physical sport.
I think that overall it's been a very positive thing. I wouldn't say it's negative. I think that if anybody's coming out of bodybuilding, like, so I do get the impression that a lot of people who bodybuild or participate in a show, and I'm not talking about at elite level, I'm talking about all athletes. If you are finding that you complain a lot about your prep and you complain a lot about your food and you complain about, you probably shouldn't be doing it. And I don't see people who do that being very successful. I'm not lying when I say that my prep food, like chicken, rice, and broccoli, I make fun of it, but honestly, I enjoy eating that. That's what I eat. Like, I actually did an IG live, and I deleted it earlier because I was just like, I want something more structured. But I did an IG live earlier today about what's in my refrigerator, what's in my pantry, and it's basically nothing. Like, I eat fresh food pretty much week to week. I mean, my refrigerator is empty most of the time, but I eat chicken, rice, broccoli, steak, sweet potato, rice. It's not creative, and I enjoy that kind of food, so it works out for me. And I think a lot of people like, and the mental aspect of it is, a lot of people really struggle with that, really struggle with the diet. The diet is what, like you said, you struggle with the diet. I mean, I've been sitting a friend of mine some workouts like I'm really struggling with the diet. I'm like, oh, that's to me, that's the hardest part. I think people can get up and get moving, you get that dopamine and everything, but that diet, especially once you start lifting, you get hungry, real hungry. And if you're not prepared for it, if you don't have the food ready, that's where meal prep really helps. If you don't have food ready, you're going to end up failing yourself, go buy pizza or whatever. And I do that from time to time. I'm not perfect, but I enjoy it. But yeah, the mental aspect is I just I enjoy my diet. I enjoy working out. My husband participates in it with he works out too. So it's kind of a family affair. I have my little 2-year old. We all hang out at the gym and we work out. So um I think it's been a very positive experience. But yeah, the prep for like since from January to July, that was a little rough. Being that a calorie deficit most of the time, that was tough.
I mean, I purposely only got 3 hours of sleep last night because, not purposely, but because I accidentally didn't eat enough calories and I did too much cardio. So then I got a headache and I couldn't fall back asleep when I got up. So yeah, it's just so much of a balancing act.
Worse for me is when I go into this calorie deficit. I basically had terrible sleep for 6 months. It's just you just can't sleep, right? Because your body doesn't have what it needs, and it just keeps you up. So yeah, the sleep was really rough, and then that just caused a whole host of things. Not just mentally, physically, your body's not repairing. And like I said, because of that, I've really cut into my physique a whole lot. So
Well, and you kind of answered a little bit, but what was your friends and family's reaction like when you announced them, like, hey, I want to give bodybuilding a shot?
um, they're kind of like, okay, because I have a theme in my life is I've taken on a lot of different things. I wear a lot of different hats. I'm not afraid to try anything. So I did. I ran. I was actually a collegiate rower at Georgia Tech, so I rode. I got into rock climbing for a little bit. CrossFit, golf, whatever. I just um, I'm the queen of reinventing myself. So I guess nothing really surprised my family. They're just like, oh, okay, and honestly, I keep as far as my family, even within my family, my circle's kind of small, and they're all like, yeah, I mean, like if anybody can do it and be successful at it, it's you. I mean, you know how to work. You always work hard at it, whatever you do, and you're always pretty good at what you end up doing. And I'm like, yeah, there's a common factor there. It's just the work, just having dedication.
Well, and you mentioned that you have a 2-year-old. So what was that like preparing for shows basically with a newborn?
Well, so I was prepping for my first show in 2020, the year of COVID. All right. I I was going to do a show in March. Well, it got canceled. And so this was pre-baby, right? So 2019, I was prepping 2018, 2019, I was preparing for my first bodybuilding show. And then it came and COVID just messed up everything. It got canceled in March. And between then and when it got rescheduled in September, I got married and I got pregnant. I got pregnant in July, and they had rescheduled the show in 2020 for September. And I was like, okay, well, not doing that. And so I worked out my entire pregnancy. I have videos on my Instagram, this big old pregnant lady lifting, running, everything, hanging from a bar, doing, knee ups. People like, you're nuts. Like, whatever, man. Like, a year after having this baby, I'm going to go to this show. I'm going to get my pro card, and that's what's going to happen. And I mean, I made it happen. That's exactly what happened. So I was, it was just a blur. I don't even know what to tell anybody when they ask me about the first 6 or 8 months of having a kid. Is like, you're so tired.
Well, you want to talk about being sleep deprived on top of that too, for just bodybuilding, and then also dealing with a kid. How'd you get any sleep?
It was really wild and super unhealthy, and I'm glad I made it through. But I was so determined. Is like, I would work out mid morning. Like, so I had this newborn, and they were waking. They go to sleep and wake up a whole lot. Well, I would work out mid morning, and then try to take a nap with her a couple of times during the day. And so at this point, I'm staying home, and then I would work out in the afternoon when my husband got home, and then I would work out again. So, and all this time I'm like pumping too. So I'm like,
You did 3-a-days?
I did 3 a days, and I would work out in the afternoon, and then I'd work out late at night. I'd work out from like 9 p.m. to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I did that for pretty much almost a year. It was wild. It was a lot. And I mean, there was a lot of conversations that I had with my husband. He was like, are you okay? Like,
Wait,
are
so
you
you worked out for 5 straight hours?
Yes, yes,
How do
yes.
you work out for 5 straight hours? I'm curious.
I don't know. I mean, really, I do it. I do it even now. Like, I do 2 a days. So right now I'm doing 2 a days. So I work out from about 9:30 to like 11:30, sometimes 12, and then I work out again in the afternoon from about 4 to 6:30, and then I might, like, after dinner, go out and do like an ancillary set of something. But I work out all the time.
God, how's your husband not been like, okay, I know some people that can help you just get away from the weights a little bit, just for 3 days. Yeah, that is. I'm just getting over the 5 hour thing because like the most I ever worked out in a thing is like 2.5 hours, and that's just because of like cardio and stuff. But again, I mean, hey, the results show. I was just scrolling through your Instagram when you were talking about yourself, and the results show, everyone. But that's dedication and drive. That's, again, these people are a little crazy. I always have to have a little disclaimer at the bottom, be like, don't try this at home. These are somewhat trained professionals, but yeah, that's that drive that like just, it's inspiring to talk to people. But when we talk about, some of the hardest things in this lifestyle, posing is something that is rarely brought up, but it is. See, we get that reaction every single time. No one really talks about it, but it is, for a lot of my guests, like the hardest thing to do. What was your relationship like with posing?
Posing. So yes, the idea of going on stage, and it's not really muscularity posing, because I've done that. I've done bodybuilding posing and like physique or fit body physique posing. Much different than bikini. Much different than bikini. Bikini is in a class on its own. That's very much stage presence and a little bit of pageantry to it. But yes, it was pretty awful. I've posted in the past a video of me starting off, and it was so bad. It was so awkward. And any time I see a new competitor and they're like, "Oh, I feel so bad," I'm like, I show them that video. I'm like, "Listen, homie, look at this." And when I talked about how much I worked out, I would also, on top of that, throw in at least 2 hours of posing practice a day. And it was just
2 hours. What is
2 hours.
wrong? What is wrong with you, Jane? Like, honestly, like, do I need to call someone like after we're done talking here? 2 hours of posing?
I don't do that anymore. That was the first year, when I was getting ready for my first show. I mean,
how are you walking, first of all? Because like people talk to me about how even if they do like a half hour posing, just how sore you are, but 2 hours of it, like how are you even functioning?
I know how this sounds, and it might sound a little trite, but I mean, it's really how bad you want it. How badly do you want something? How badly do you want to be good at something or proficient at something? And how much time is like, it sounds like a lot of time, but while I'm doing all these things, I mean, other people are watching TV or whatever, or playing a game or video game or something like that. I'm just using my time, my free time to work out, to, build my body. So, uh, there's a lot of time in the day, even being a mom, there's plenty of time in the day. Now I'm speaking from a one kid situation, and everybody's situation is different. But I do feel like people don't utilize it. And also mentally, people create this idea. It's like, well, I can only get in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Why start? And I'm like, something is always better than nothing. And there were days that I did that. There were days that I couldn't do what I'm talking about. And I'd say, okay, well, even just like a 10-minute thing on the bike. Okay. I feel better. I did something. It's about building a mental routine. So even on those days that are slow, go and do something, like even if it's 5 minutes, I don't care, but you build that routine mentally. And so you kind of motivate yourself to do it the next day. But, and I know those hours sound absolutely crazy, but I mean, I have witnesses they can attest to. I mean, my neighbors, they would see me running up and down. We live in a different house now, but some of my former neighbors, they were like, you're out there all the time. I was running with so I run with a vest, and I was just running back and forth down this side street, and they're just seeing me all the time. They're like, "You work so hard. You work so hard." I'm like, I want it that
Please
bad.
don't. They're probably telling their kids, "Yeah, don't talk to that lady. She's a psychopath. She's running around here all the time with a vest on and everything." No, I'm
Yeah,
joking, everyone. But yeah, it's again, this is why I love talking to guests like this, because it's that dedication, that drive is so rare in people to finally talk to someone like that. That's why at first I'm reacting like, okay, this person's crazy, but then you're just like, no, this person just has a drive that some might find crazy, but actually it's just really inspiring when you really think about it.
I mean, it's funny. I just so I'm a big fan of like David Goggins and also Sebum, and they kind of have contrasting beliefs, and it just depends on who you talk to. So David Goggins, like, when you want to be great at something, you want to be great. There's not a whole lot of balance. People that are great, like the greatest, there's not a whole lot of balance. Especially in the beginning, there's like very little balance. So I think if you're looking for balance, if you don't have great genetics, or you don't have a great financial situation, or you don't have all these things in order to do this thing that you want to do, you don't have all the ideal, I think it would be hard pressed to say that you're going to have balance. So you kind of have to understand that there may not be balance. And that was a conversation that my husband and I had. He's like, I just want to make sure that you are happy, you're staying safe. I'm like, yes, I'm good. I was like, but I explained this. I was like, I just feel like if I want to be good at this, if I want to accomplish what I want to accomplish, there's not going to be a whole lot of balance right now. And he was like, okay. And so he was on board, and it was really temporary. I lived in that life very temporarily. Well, that those 3 a days, those intermittent workouts, that was just my first year, my first show. I wanted to be super successful. That's what I wanted. And so it was crazy. But I mean, yeah, I just the time that I spend working out is, I mean, people spend their time doing various other things. It's not like everybody spend their time, working. They're at home doing probably various other things, but I'm just like, well, I'm just going to go work
It's
out.
it's a good addiction to have. I'll give it that. It's better than a lot of other addictions. But how many calories were you eating when you were doing 3 days and working out five? What were you on, like 10,000 calories a day, or how were you fueling yourself?
I was not fueling myself very well, and actually, part of the problem was in the first 6 months that I had my baby. I had a hard time. We reached a point where I plateaued, and I also noticed that my hair was falling out. And so I was like, there's something wrong. And this is where, like, I really have a big problem with medical care for women. It's like pretty, like, sometimes I feel like it's pretty terrible. Like,
Luckily, I have no knowledge of that. Thank
yeah.
you.
I mean, well, it's like, you communicate something, and women are kind of known for being intuitive and knowing their bodies, and it's kind of like, I know something's wrong.
I'm just gonna give you a little quick tangent here. I had a rash on my leg for over like a year and a half, and I didn't get it checked out just because I was like, oh, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. And I finally got checked out, and they're like, you're lucky that it wasn't something serious, but they're like, you shouldn't do that. And I was like, what? It's fine. Like, whatever. And they're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, just give this to. But that's the male perspective versus what she's talking about. For everyone who wants a contrast.
Yeah. So I'm just like, no, this is like, I was like, I know I'm being relatively healthy in terms of my diet and my working out. Probably the working out was putting a big strain on my body, but I was just like, no, this is not right. And they're like, well, it's normal for postpartum women to have a form of hypothyroidism and for these things to happen. Because I'm like, no, I was like, I'm sorry, but if every pregnant postpartum lady was losing this much hair, I would know, like, I would have heard something about this. They would be throwing themselves off bridges. So I went to the doctor, did a full blood panel, and it turns out I developed an autoimmune disease. And I have two different antibodies currently right now attacking my thyroid, which makes it not work. And so I have to take levothyroxine. So I had to go through that whole medical challenge. And this was I didn't get on medication till November, and my first show was in March. So I really struggled through working through hypothyroidism for, most of my prep for my first show. And they were like, and I guess when I went to the doctor, they were like, oh, well, I guess it didn't occur to us that you might have a problem because you're not overweight. And I'm like, well, because I'm working out like a crazy person. That's why, I'm prepping for a show, but I know that I'm not losing weight maybe the way that I should. So there had to be some chemical. But as far as fueling myself, honestly, I'm going there was no scientific approach to
Oh, if
what
I
I
was you, I would have an IV of like Gatorade injected into me just like constantly throughout the day.
I mean, I would eat. I did eat very little. I tried to eat. I did not eat as much as I eat now. I can tell you that much. I tried to eat certain things because I was also breastfeeding and then trying to pump. So I would eat, but I was not eating a lot. I was just working out a ton, and I'm just glad I made it through, man. Right now it's a lot more measured. I kind of look at the amount of protein, and I'm not this huge macro person where I'm like weighing everything. I generally know where I am, and I'm just really familiar with my body. I can tell what's going on. So um, it's a lot more measured, and I eat a lot more food now. But it was not a healthy approach that first year. I'm just gonna be honest. So
Well, I mean, I honestly, when we were talking, because you asked me before what the name came to be, and honestly, I was thinking about just renaming this podcast to Trial and Error, because that is this entire lifestyle. That's all
yeah.
this is just a huge amount of trial and error. But when you were on that stage for the WNBF and they announced your name and you realized that you won both a figure and bikini pro card, what were those moments like for you when you realized, like, oh my God, I'm a pro now?
So that first show, that was just very weird and kismet. I mean, I did not earn my bikini pro card. So here's the other thing with bikinis. So I've been burning up bikini. Well, I didn't get my bikini pro card until this year, until March. So why is because so my first show in 2022, I won my figure class, but that was something that I did last minute. So before the competition on Saturday, it was Friday night, we were having a competitors meeting, and the promoter was going through how many numbers were in each class. And to get a pro card, you have to have a certain number of competitors in the class for WNBF. And for figure, you have to have 8 competitors. Well, there were only 5 girls signed up for figure, and I had played around with the idea of whether or not I wanted to do figure or bikini at the show or do both. And I had decided, no, I'm just going to focus on one. I'm just going to do bikini. Well, I heard that there were only 5 girls doing figure, and I just think it's a shame when competitors show up and they don't have an opportunity to win a pro card. That sucks. And it's a lot of money to pay to not be able to earn a pro card. So I said, I remember raising my hand. I was like, so if more girls sign up, can more girls sign up, cross over last minute if they want to try the class? And I wasn't signing up just to sign, to fill the class and not do anything. I was going to compete. I was like, I was already kind of thinking about it anyway, but I only had a practice suit. So I raised my hand and then two other girls did. So now we had enough for figure. And I remember it was like 9:45 at night. I'm 45 minutes away from my home. My husband meets me halfway to hand me over my figure practice suit. So I don't even have like a real suit for figure, the really bedazzled pretty ones. So I get my suit and I stay up till like 1:30 a.m. the night before the competition practicing figure posing. And then the next day it was just a whirlwind. It's like I remember going on stage. I went up for figure first, and I got off stage, and somebody kind of said to me, they're like, "I think you just won figure," and I was like, "Weird, really weird." And then I go up for bikini, and at the night show, I find out is like, so I win my tall class in bikini, and I'm like, okay. So I go to overalls, and then it ends up being between me and this one other girl. There's three of us on stage, but I end up getting second overall, and it's just crazy. So I did really well in bikini. I've always done well in bikini, but the feedback I always kind of got was like, you're a little too conditioned for a bikini, and so it delayed me getting my pro card in bikini. But it's always a nice feeling, a wonderful feeling when you win. It's. But I remember my first pro card, I won it, but it was short lived. I was like, okay, what next? What now? What's the plan now? And so from there, I tried to do. I did shows, and I even went to championships in figure. And I'm just not in a world sense or international sense or any other sense, like on a high level. I am not a competitive figure athlete. Okay. Now, going to individual shows, I might show up and win, but generally speaking, no. I am 5'9". I'm tall. I'm not a wide frame. I'm a small frame. I cannot beat girls who are like 5'3", 5'4", wide in the lats, wide in the quads, stacked in terms of volume. I mean, I can pretty much beat the brakes off anybody in conditioning. They say, hey, brain conditioning, I'm like, I got you. But volume, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So that's where I was like, you know what? I'm going to go after my original goal, which was bikini. And then we'll go from there. If I develop out of the class, great, perfect. Because I love figure and I love muscularity classes or even physique. Love it. But, as far as doing that in IFBB or NPC, absolutely not. I could do bikini maybe, but figure or physique, not bodybuilding. I love bodybuilding, but
I was going to say the figure girls in the NPC, they have exactly what you were talking about, what they need, but it's because of other reasons, if we're being completely honest. So, yeah, but no, absolutely. And what was the whirlwind like of dealing with post-show blues after multiple shows?
so that is a thing. It really is a thing. Um, Actually, it wasn't when you have shows back to back. So basically, this year I had like a show February 25th. I had one March 18th or March 25th. Had another one April 1st. I had one in between there. When you have one show after another, it's like you really didn't. I didn't really have an opportunity to get that post show blues because I was just getting ready mentally. I was like, okay, now I got to get ready for this one, And I don't know why it comes about. I think it comes about because you're like, it is like a high, especially when you're doing well, right? When you're going there and you're also doing really well, it's like, oh well, that's over now. That joy is over, and really, it's I had to change my relationship with how I felt about competing in bodybuilding. Like, you started bodybuilding, Jane, because you really liked the way that it made you feel about yourself, about your body, and it was a good physical and mental thing for you. And then for a short period, competitions got introduced, and I feel like I was more focused on that and relying on the feedback from those. But the reality is that you don't win much money at these shows. And I mean, you get a medal. nobody's going to give a shit 2 or 3 years from now, you know? I mean, nobody cares. Nobody's going to care, and you're not going to care. You're not going to care primarily. So it's kind of like, I really need to focus and be more in love with the process. And I thought that I would have a really hard time transitioning to an off season. It was really an emotional decision to stop competing, but actually, I'm kind of liking it. I'm kind of like going back to where I was in the very, very beginning, where I just love trying different things and love lifting. And I'm getting okay with my body, my off season body. That's a really hard one because you have this amazing physique. You have this physique that a lot of people don't have, and then it kind of goes away a little bit, and you're like, damn. But yeah, I don't know. The postseason blues is just I don't know what it is for a lot of people. I know what it was for me though. It was just at times it was just like, oh well, I got to keep going. I want to keep going because I want to maintain this physique and I want to feel like I'm doing a good job with this. And and those shows are kind of like a validation of your hard work, in a way. But at the same time, I think that's dangerous to rely on them for that. So
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, like, let's be completely honest. You're not the average looking woman. If you're to walk out in public, dressed the way you are going to draw people's attention. I compare it to being a mini celebrity where it's just people get fascinated. And the moment you mentioned you're an introvert, I was like, okay, that's got to be interesting then because, I mean, you do draw more people's, especially as you got closer to a show and you got that prep look. How did you deal with that? And what was your reaction like to just getting more people's attention as you got closer and closer to your shows, even now?
I think one of the weirdest things is, and unfortunate ones, is I heard a couple of times this past season, just rumor mills, and whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I heard a couple of times that there was actually girls or competitors that pulled out from a show because they found out I was going to do it.
That's the best compliment you can ever receive.
And I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess I get from a pro standpoint. If you're talking about cost of doing a show and money, like I do shows. Like I'm not going to show up to something in which I don't have. The only one show that I showed up to that I was like, I may not win. I don't have probably these great odds of winning is the NPC show. I was just like, I want to find out where I stack up. That was my only real goal. Like I didn't think that I was necessarily going to walk away with all this money. Not well, it was money. It was amateur, so I wasn't going to walk away with money. But I was just like, I just want to see where I stacked up, and it was surprisingly great results. But I think that is, I mean, yeah, while it's a compliment, but it's also like, wow. I think that I don't know. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. I don't know. Hmm.
I mean, hey, if I found out that people were leaving just because they thought that I was in there, so why didn't you just try to like mess with people and like announce that you were going to be at a show and then just not show up just to like see who would do that? That would be, I mean, that's cruel, but I would do something like that myself.
Well, it's you know, uh, there's a lot of people that have the mindset that they're like, work in silence, don't say anything, don't tell people what you're doing, and I'm just like, here's the deal. Here's how I think. I don't think announcing or not announcing changes anything. I think that people are going to put in the work or they're not. Like you're going to come and be competitive against a really competitive person or not. Like so, those girls pulling out of the show. I almost, if that's true, I almost think it's a little ridiculous because you know then we're not coming from the same place. When I go see shows too, I talk to everybody, and I think that's the surprising thing is I don't, I'm very I've been known to be very friendly, but because the work is done, it's like actually Steve said in an interview, and it's like a very identifying moment with him. He's like, the work is done. There's nothing that when people say, "Oh, I'm coming for it," I'm coming for you. It's like, what? You just gonna stand next to me? Like, I mean, it's out of your control. So why be a turd?
I've heard people say that, and I'm like, this isn't boxing for God's sake. Like, what is? Yeah,
No, no, no. I mean, it's really like bodybuilding is relatively very unathletic. It's great for unathletic people. And, some people are like, I'm an athlete if I bodybuild. I'm like, I agree with, and it was like, once again, it's going to this interview with Stephen, but I watched it, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. I'm like, yo, there's a difference between doing CrossFit and bodybuilding. You have to be an athlete to do CrossFit, like legitimately do CrossFit, legitimately do golf. Like bodybuilding it takes something. I don't know what you call it, but it's not. You don't have to be super athletic to do it.
I will say then, other than like a few football players and maybe a baseball player or two, like that body type does not do well in any sport. A
No,
bodybuilder body type, yes, and that's. I mean, again, you're a great athlete for accomplishing this, but it's like it benefits you in no like mainstream athletic competitions.
it is not performance based. So yeah. So anyway, so when I see that or hear that, or just announcing, like, people like, oh, maybe you shouldn't tell people that you're doing certain shows. I'm like, no, like it even if they think that way, the thing is that it doesn't change anything. And also, you can have, and I've been a victim of this. I have posed not correctly at times, and it's lost me a place. So somebody can show up and look fantastic, but if they don't pose properly, if they don't have that stage go back to that and working on why I work on that so much, then it doesn't matter. So I was like, you should always, you know, see where you land, and you never know. You absolutely never know what judges or what a panel is looking for. I mean, hell, I've lost the I've gotten second place so many times, not because I wasn't the best looking athlete or didn't pose the best. They just were like, we weren't looking for that. So I think that's interesting that I've heard that a couple of times, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I suspect that maybe it is in one case. But I'm like, I mean, I don't know. I think that's really weird. And and I'm pretty open about what I do and what how I train and everything, because once again, it's not going to change anything for the next person. There's no, our bodies, my body is so different from another competitor's, and how I respond to different things, and my family life and the time I spend. Like, what I do is not necessarily going to work for them, and it's also not going to motivate them. Most people, even if they hear something like another competitor's doing in terms of bodybuilding, it's not going to motivate them to go out and do that same thing. So it doesn't matter, I don't think.
What and one speaking of exercise, what is one exercise that when you see it on your program, you're happy, like it's your favorite thing to do? And then what's one exercise that you see that and you're like, oh my God, I hate my life right now?
The one, so I'm a one man show. So I do all of my diet, nutrition, and programming. I don't have a trainer or anything like that. So when I program for myself, so when present Jane programs for future Jane always hates past Jane for putting in, and everybody, I think this is common, Bulgarian split squats, man. They're freaking terrible.
I'm shaking a little bit just hearing that.
They're terrible. They're really terrible. Like, it's the worst, really, for me. And it doesn't matter if it's a barbell, dumbbells, whatever. Anything like that in which my back leg is up or elevated or back. It just sucks. Even like back, I don't even like doing reverse lunges. Like, uh, but they're so necessary. Those, and then as far as my favorite, oh man, I like anything with shoulders. I love shoulders. Shoulders are great for me, and so are back workouts and pretty much anything upper body. I really mentally struggle with lower body, even though I do a ton of it. I really struggle with it, and it's just, it makes sense though. It's like that's my weakest point, and it's hard to work on the weak stuff because you feel weak as you're moving through this stuff. Like, so yeah, but it's really wild because even before I got to bodybuilding, I always thought that I had strong legs, good legs, and I always had shapely legs because I ran and everything. Then I just didn't realize how weak I was until I got into bodybuilding and Olympic weightlifting. I was like, oh my God, like I really need to come up a whole lot more.
I mean,
So,
for me, my favorite's got to be the row machine because, I mean, you mentioned rowing, but that's just for me. That's the most fluid thing for me. I love it. It's a great back workout.
yeah.
Oh. I've been doing that since like middle school. That was the thing. Like I would just go to a gym just to do the row machine for like half an hour.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even know anything about rowing because rowing is not like, so you're from the north. It's not big down here. Nobody knows what
I'm the
rowing.
land of 10,000 lakes, even though technically it's 19,000 lakes. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, up there, like rowing is a thing, right? And regattas are a thing. Rowing regattas are a thing. Down here, they're not. So I wasn't introduced to an erg until college, and so I have one now. I have a concept too, and I had a water rower for a minute there. Those are also great. But the concept two is a better training tool. I think the water rower is great if, I mean, it's okay, but it just doesn't have all the like resistance capability of a concept two. So,
And
but
you,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, and you are one of the taller competitors that I've had on. I mean, I've had a few that are a little bit taller, but I mean, when you're on stage against people that are like 5 feet tall, how hard is it for you to like? I don't know, because I've always said that there needs to be height classes because when you are trying to judge someone who's 5'9" as opposed to someone that's like 5'2" or 5'3" or even 5 feet tall, it's very hard.
well, I think that, yeah, when you have like a lot of times, so NPC is good about that. It's like they really do divide a lot of the girl. They do divide you up by height class, but when it comes to overalls, I always think it's funny. Is like, you know why go through the trouble of dividing height people by height only to throw the top performers in each height class against one another? I almost feel like, they should get a pro card. I mean, maybe they don't want to handle that many pro cards. I get that, but it also creates a huge subjectivity issue, I think, at really competitive competitions where you have a short, medium, and tall girl against one another. These are just different. These are different humans. These are different species. I'm never gonna look like some chick that's 5'1", and she's never gonna look like me. um, so I don't know. It's that is a tough one. And I don't think there's a really good answer to it. But I almost feel like, you know it should be separated. Maybe you do just give a pro card to each like different type of height class, where you at least have a cutoff, because physiques do dramatically change with height.
I mean, I've always had a super soft sweet spot for the taller competitors because, as being a taller person myself, I just understand the struggle. But when we do have you on a year from now, I'd love to talk to you in a year just to see what you've been up to. Where would you like to be at just in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at in your overall life? What are some goals that you'd like to have achieved?
So, my goal right now, so the plan forward. So when you talk to me in a year, maybe we do a little interview before my Florida Pro show. So that's going to be what I'm tagging as my debut show after taking a year off. I'm going to go and hit a really big, probably the biggest natural stage there is. I've done it one time before, so I know what I'm getting into. Um, but I plan to, right now, I'm at like 139 pounds. So I normally weigh 122 for stage weight. I want to get up to another 10 pounds, maybe to 150, and just,
Are you preparing yourself mentally for that?
uh, it's tough. Trust me, most of my spandex already doesn't fit, man. So, I'm already there, but, my husband is very kind, and he's like, I'm all good with it. So my husband's all good. That's the only thing that matters. So, right. Of course, myself, but he's very supportive. So he's just like, yeah, man, bring it on. So, I'm going to put on that weight and just lift often and lift heavy as shit. And, really just get some good rest and recovery and kind of go 70% for a little bit. For these next few months, I'm kind of keeping it at 70. I'm not in because I'm just trying to let my body recover from like basically 2 years of nonsense.
Because I'm just
And
going to warn you, if I see on your Instagram that you're doing another 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. workout, I am going to have to call someone and get like a wellness check on you or something like that.
no,
Because
no more of that stuff. I go to bed at night. Our little girl climbs in bed with us, and when she notices when I'm not in bed, she'll be like, "Mama, Mama." I'll be like, "All right." So I gotta be in bed. I gotta be in bed for my little girl. So, but yeah, so that's where we should be, and hopefully I come back just overall bigger and better. Everyone. That's the goal. It should have volume.
yeah. Absolutely. That's the name of the game. And I mean, Jane, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us. It was just so great talking to you. And I look forward to seeing what you're doing in the future. And again, everyone, go and check her out on her Instagram. I'll leave a link down below. Is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
I would like to give a shout out to my husband.
The significant others are always the unsung heroes of this podcast. I've said it a million times, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, that really is like those people are kind of they definitely are the unsung heroes. But my husband, all them, and just everybody. Like, I love the promoters. So Daryl and Holly are the Florida Pro, and like Courtney and Tony. They promoted the Wisconsin Warrior. I have just and there's numerous other, and Keith and Josh of Showtime Classic. Like, I've met some amazing people throughout all these runs. And amazing competitors. So I'm just, I want to give all those folks a shout out because I really do appreciate them and think about them. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, again, everyone, thank you so much for coming on, Jane. I really appreciate it. And I, again, look forward to seeing what you're going up to in about a year from now. And I'll keep following you. And again, I got to be making sure that she's not doing any of those crazy workouts again, because dear God, that's the record for this pod. Like, normally we talk to people that do like hour, but so again, we set records almost every time we do this podcast. But again, Jane, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you reaching out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everyone. This is Ryan Johnson, DD on the Spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.